do you think that? So when you're painting something, like what is going through your mind, you know?
There's a lot of psychology in artwork, and a lot of stuff you can learn about yourself, and it affects everyone. I mean, everybody's creative in their own certain way. And, a lot of people are fortunate enough to find their creative spark. Some are kind of unlucky. They go through life not really knowing, but I think everybody has a creativeness to them. And whenever you exercise it, I think that you can tap into these other little realms, these things that, like the documentary, The Secret, where you put your mind to it, you really manifest stuff. I think that these artists maybe have tapped into these things that a normal person would find magical or something, something that they couldn't normally do. I mean, look at H.R. Geiger. They did a documentary on him, and he had a kind of traumatizing part of his life that he brought out a lot of his artwork, and his friends were like, we don't believe in any of all this stuff, but with him, he's definitely channeling something that they had never. I mean, his work's unbelievable. I mean, they made the Alien movies from his work. It's pretty far out there. But I think that whatever you're tapping into, if you're really into it and you're really wanting to manifest it, then you can try your best to bring it out. And I think it goes with any art form,
Your art is super, and I say this in a very positive way, trippy. So like when I'm like going through your page when I first DM'd you, and then I found you again when we started to talk about it again. And then yesterday even, I was looking at it and I was like, this is just, it's like really tripping. It's really like cool because it's like, it like takes you into these weird places. Like I love art that's like that. So like, I don't know if you're a fan of the show Rick and Morty, are you?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes. I haven't delved too far into it, but I appreciate the show and what it's all about.
I just love like trippy things like that. So your art really is really dope. Could you tell me just a little bit about where your inspiration comes from, or is it like different on each piece, or where do you get that like really like drive from to create one piece of art?
I've got like a short answer and I got a long answer.
We got time, man. You can give me both.
All right. So, growing up, I was always really into ancient cultures, Egyptian culture, Mayan, Aztec, ancient Chinese. Like, I think it's fun for my mom. She was really into that kind of stuff. And growing up, kind of researching that, like on my own, maybe learning stuff in history class, I guess. But, I really liked mythology. Grew up watching Xena, Hercules, stuff like that in the 90s. So I was really into it, and it obviously came out in my artwork. And as I got older, I obviously started, I was a teenager. In my early 20s, I was experimenting with drugs and certain things like that. And I was already interested through certain, research classes of like Edgar Allan Poe, Coleridge. They all had like laudanum addictions. Since they were children, it was like a medicine back then. But you take too much, it's going to cause somewhat of a psychoactive effect to it. And a lot of it would come out in their art, in their work, their writings, or whatever art. And look at Picasso, early 20s, 30s, and 40s. It wasn't a drug place then. You don't think of drug use being until the 60s, but there was a lot of chemicals that were around, but also like natural things, mushrooms, which have been taken since Homo sapiens been walking this planet. So I got into that. I was interested, and I had my own experiences, and a lot of it came out in my work. And it was something that it was not, of course, I had my times where I was like, I just want to go have fun. But there was a lot of times I was sprawled out on my floor, pupils dilated, and trying to draw, because I was experimenting at a young age, kind of scientifically, amateur-wise, I guess, trying to see what happens with my artwork, because I'd studied it with other artists. And now it's really come out. I try to depict a lot of the stuff that I had seen visual-wise, geometric patterns, a lot of these crazy entities that you might come across. And it kind of fell into that visionary art scene. Not that I was trying to. And I think the visionary art kind of recently just kind of spawned. It's kind of like, what do you call it? I mean, it's not it's psychedelic art. Psychedelic art, you think more of the 60s. But you have like actual art forms like abstract and contemporary art. And I think visionary art kind of fell into a actual form and got kind of popular. And you think about art, since the beginning of time, humans always depicted something that is around them in nature. You have still lifes, you have portraits, you have animals, you have abstract things that are around you, sailboats, trees, but it's always been something that you've seen here in nature or around you. And then the visionary art kind of got into a part of the brain where that stuff doesn't exist in real life. Maybe morphed buildings or rock formations with faces in them. That doesn't exist, maybe in fairy tales, you know. But that whole stem, I think, comes from ancient use of psychedelics. Fairies, trolls, Nordic gods. I mean, these Christmas is based on the Fly Garrett's mushroom. But a lot of people don't know this, but you go far, far, far back, you can find the root of these stories. And I think that overall is my conquest. Is to kind of the weirder the story is, I guarantee you the root of the story is just as weird. We've depressed it. You know, we don't talk about taking psychedelic mushrooms or eating anything like that as a society. But ancient times, our brains were synapsing like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like spark here, spark there, just experience something. And I give this thing of like, I ask people, do you believe in ghosts? Most people are like, no. But would you believe one if you saw it? They're probably like, yeah. Well, think about 30,000 years ago when Homo sapiens walking around, they eat a mushroom. They've never had this experience before, and they literally saw this with their own two eyes. That's going to be important to that person, and that person is going to try to tell somehow, some way, what his experience was. And boom, here comes belief systems, religions, like all this thing spawns from these personal experiences people have. But you know, you don't really talk about that stuff. You know, scientists probably like to talk about it, but I'm from Georgia. Mm-hmm. You can't talk about that stuff down there. You are a devil worshiper. And Jesus Christ, you know, I'm just trying to think scientifically here about a lot of this stuff that a lot of people want to make up a story about, I guess. Not that any of that's not true, but I have no idea.
So I would call myself religious. I wouldn't say I'm like, you know, normal, like I used to go to church, but like I don't anymore, but I would call myself a Christian. Like I value those things, but like I always think like, what if like, so say like, what if God or the universe, like who I think is the higher power,
put
psychedelic mushrooms and marijuana and things like that are like synthetic or not synthetic,
natural.
Organic, natural. What if he put those on the earth for us to tap into some of the spiritual realms?
Yeah, I'm very, I love all religions.